Hello, everybody, and thank you for coming out. We appreciate it. I'd like to say thank you to the studio audience as well as those folks listening on Facebook. And we are Crossroads with House of Harley. Appreciate you coming out. We have with us tonight Miss Adair Ford Boroughs. She's going to be running for Congress from the district of the guy who called President Barack Obama a lie in 2009 at the first, with his first State of the Union address. We'll never forget that. Have been wanting to get rid of this dude for forever, and I think we have a candidate that might be able to do that. So I was definitely excited when we got the opportunity to have her on. I'll tell you a little bit about us. You are now witnessing a meeting for Brothers Only. We're a group of black men that have been meeting right here in the 29203 zip code in Columbia, South Carolina for just about a year. And we are men who are concerned about our community. We get out and vote. We see things that we want to change. We want to make economic differences in our community. We want to make it clear by having Adair here as the first candidate to come speak to us that black men are very interested in what's happening in their community. And when we look around, you see all of these candidates that go to a whole lot of female, and there's nothing wrong with that, a lot of female events. There's nothing wrong with that. But I have yet to see a candidate go to a black male event. And my suspicion is there's only two reasons for that. Either you don't know where we are and how to talk to us, or you don't want to talk to us. This event, this series, begins to take away the you don't know where we are and how to talk to us. We are right here, and you talk to us just like you talk to any other civilized human being. So we're going to demonstrate that tonight, and I think my wife will probably tell me I talked enough. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to let Adair tell us a little bit about her, about what she's running for, why she's running, and the changes she thinks that she can make. Then we're going to talk to her about what changes we would like to see her help us with in our community. And we're going to listen and see how we can come together on that, see how she can do whatever it is that she does to help us with the things that we want to change. And we're going to go back and forth. But one of the things that I think you're really going to see, you're really going to pick up on, is there are a lot of black men in this room, and we have a very keen interest in being heard and being a part of developing our community. So without any further ado, Adair, how are you doing?
I'm doing well, thank you. I really appreciate the invite to be here, and really impressed at such a full studio audience here, and glad to get to meet so many people in our district. A lot of people I don't know, a few I do, so I'll give you, for people on Facebook in here that don't know me, a little bit about me and so you know where I'm coming from, and tell you how I found myself in this race, and then I'm very excited to have a back and forth conversation with you. I want to hear about what you need from your representative. So I grew up in Williston, South Carolina. It's a real small town in Barnwell County, not too terribly far from here. Graduate of Williston-Elko High School. I went to Furman up in Greenville on scholarship, studied math there, became a high school math teacher after that. Found out that my elected officials didn't really want to listen to a first or second year teacher all that much, and got frustrated and found myself on the path to law school. Went out to Stanford for law school. While I was there, I became morally indignant about corporate tax shelters, actually, and ended up at the United States Department of Justice in D.C., going after tax cheats. Did that for 6 years and wanted to move back home to South Carolina. I got a job with a federal judge in Charleston named Richard Gergel, and spent almost 4 years in his chamber working with him. While I was there, we saw a lot of cases that, for me, went to the very soul of our state and our society. We saw a lot of discrimination cases. We had the gay marriage case for the state of South Carolina, and we had the trial of Dylan Roof while I was there. After that, a friend of mine and I launched a nonprofit legal services organization. At that point, I had lots of options, but what I really wanted to do was represent people like I went to high school with, and people like my dad and the people I grew up with. And there was no one doing that. The cap on free legal aid is pretty low, so people making $20,000 or $30,000 a year, which is like my people, They didn't qualify for that. But you also can't afford to pay a lawyer a $5,000 or $8,000 retainer at that point. Yeah. And so I was determined that so many of these people, right, that are like where I'm from, working class, blue collar, should have attorney access. And so we launched an organization to do that. We do reduced rate services, and what people pay is based on their income and ability to pay. Been doing that 3.5 years now that we've launched. We've grown to a staff of 4. We've served over 400 families. And the direct financial impact of our cases has been over $1.5 million for people that we serve. And I love that work. I have loved that work dearly. I did not expect to leave it nearly so soon. I have visions for it. I want it to be a statewide organization. We believed when we started it, and I still believe today, that attorney access at really important moments in people's lives can prevent them falling into poverty. It can preserve wealth in communities. We have preserved homes, we have preserved jobs, we have preserved transportation and income streams, and I love that work. And I love stepping into situations where people are often getting screwed, frankly, and harmed in some way, and saying, not today, right? Not for your family, not today. Today it's going to be different. Today you have an advocate. Today you have someone that understands the system. And today, the outcome for your family is going to be different. And it still gives me chills to think about the opportunities I've had to do that and to step in for people. And I love it. And I wasn't looking to leave it. But I found myself, sometimes the good Lord has other plans, right? And I found myself in a place where for every client that I was able to save their home or a job, I had someone that my shiny little law degree could not help. They were facing things like the cost of medical care, and they literally could not get treatment they needed because the cost was too high. And I kept seeing these issues that I couldn't fix in that job. And at the same time, I found myself here in this district with a congressman who is clearly not, if he ever has, representing the interests of the people that live here. Yes. And more than half of his money comes from corporate PAC donations, and those are the interests he votes with every single time. And it frustrates me. It frustrates me that we don't have a congressman that we can depend on for the most simplest nonpartisan issues here in the district, like getting help with the EPA on fixing the canal here in Columbia, or getting help with medical clinics in the rural parts of our district. Very simple things. Or when I would refer people to his office for constituent services help with Veterans Affairs or other things, and they never got a call back. And we have a guy here who is not working for the people that live here, that he is supposed to represent. And he is vulnerable. We can replace him. But I've done a lot of homework. I always do my homework, and I know what it's going to take to replace him. And I know it's going to take $2 to $2.5 million. I know we're going to have to turn out a lot of different demographics, and I know that we're going to have to put together a sophisticated team that can put together a top-notch campaign in this district to do it. It's not going to be easy. And I didn't see any other candidates stepping up that could do that. And so here I am. I finally reached a point where my husband said, you going to keep complaining or are you going to run?
I'm glad you got there, because I have not liked this guy since 2009 when I realized who he was, because before then we'd never heard from this guy. When I knew he was the guy that called Barack Obama a lie. And most folks in my community have never forgotten or forgiven that. And we don't plan to. The problem is, and I'll be honest, I'll speak for myself, I've been more reactive than proactive. So I get mad and I react. But what is the necessary step to actually react to him? How do you see yourself removing this guy? You mentioned the amount of money that it's going to take. What are the actual steps that it's going to take to remove him? Because I want to give you a platform to say how you do what you do before we get into a couple other things. But I really want you to tell, how do you plan to what does it take? What's it going to take to get rid of him?
Yeah, so we've put together actually a pretty comprehensive campaign plan. It involves reaching voters where they are, and that means TV, that means radio, that means social media, that means mail, that means field canvassing. And we are going to do all of those voter outreach, and that's what takes the money, right? You have to have the money to get your voter out in front of people. And when you're talking about a United States congressional race, you're talking about over 800,000 people. And to get your message out to that many people, you have to have all of these different tactics. And our money will be going to get that message out to them. And we will be doing all of those things. And so we have a timeline and a full campaign plan on how to do that and where that money is going to go.
This group is called For Brothers Home. Again, we've been meeting for a year. I'm probably the most hyper brother in here. If I get excited about something, it's time to go do it.
Yep.
If I said I wanted to help Adair, and we made this call, I talked to Shad Saturday morning. The next call was to Jimmy and then Shay. And we put this together from Saturday morning to now, and we literally still have black men walking in the place. Literally, as I was speaking, another one walked in, and we've got brothers off camera that you can't see. I mean, if you look at some of the other feeds, you've got brothers off camera that are still coming in. So black men are very concerned. We want to be a part of this community. No, not want to be. We are a part of this community. We want to make a difference, and a positive difference in this community. How could we help you? Because one of the things I want folks that when they see this video and they realize that not only do black men care and they show up, but we go out and we do things and we make a difference. How could we help you? Give us a strategy, because we want to look at it, and can't guarantee we'll do all those strategies, any of those strategies. But I can guarantee you, the guys in this room, there are people that you don't see that haven't shown up in this room that might be watching this. I promise you, if you need some help with some things, you got some guys that'll do it. And if you're talking about removing a guy that I know personally, because I talk to a lot of these guys, a lot of us still don't like Joe Wilson. I mean, we have real strong feelings about Joe Wilson, and they are not good. So how could we help you? What could we do? Tell us specifically.
One, you need to tell your communities about me, right? So a lot of this for me as a first-time candidate is going to be about people just knowing that I'm out there and that this is a serious race. Plain, simple name recognition. So if you're on social media, share this interview, share our launch video, all of that. So people in your networks that are not in mine can know that I'm out there and that they have an option in this race. You need to be talking about us to neighbors. If you don't do social media, talk to your neighbors, talk to your groups, whatever groups you're in, your church, your ball, whatever group you play ball with, whoever it is. Talk about us, tell people, send them to our website, help them check us out. Second, you can always give money to the extent you're able. Not everyone is able, but to the extent you're able, we are going to have to fund these different message outreach. And third, in 2020 is when we're going to get real serious about things like door knocking and making some phone calls. And one of the things that is really important for me as a white candidate is I'm going to need some people that actually know me to tell their community, look, I've met this woman. This is what she said when I met her that night. I'm going to have trouble walking into every community and trying to convince everybody myself that I'm worth their vote. And it's going to be helpful to have voices if we want people to show up on election day and actually cast a vote. Because they may hate Joe Wilson, but they cannot vote. And if we're going to win this, we have to have people voting. And I need you guys as allies for me in this race to get that vote out. And you can do it in a way that I can never do by myself.
Thank you for coming. That's one of the reasons that we wanted you to come out and other candidates, because we want folks to realize that we can be an asset, or like you said, we can just sit down and not vote for you. I mean, I had a favorite candidate, and everybody that follows me knows who my favorite candidate was. And she was my favorite candidate until I realized she just will not make time to come to our community. I tried constantly to get this woman to come talk to black men. You were the first person to take us up on that. For that, we thank you. We are very interested in who you're running against, and because of that, you will probably get help out of this room. I want to now move on to a couple of different topics. One of the topics I want to move on to, there's a member of this group by the name of Lester. And Lester was not here at the time that you mentioned how you help formerly incarcerated persons. So I'm going to toss this question out. Well, I had this question written down for you. I was going to ask it in your name. You showed up, though. How do you help formerly incarcerated persons reintegrate themselves back into society? Once they've come out and they've got them, and Lester can talk to you more about that than I can. It's a personal experience that he's had. It's his passion. It's the work that he does. How do you help? How have you helped? How can you help? Is that something that someone from the congressional district can do?
Yeah, absolutely. It's something we can help. And there's policies that can be done at local, state, and federal levels on making opportunities more accessible for formerly incarcerated individuals. And Check the Box is big is something that's, talked about a lot. And you can do that at the city level. You can do that at different levels. Right. Yeah. But there are things like, for instance, if you're talking about employment, you could look at something like federal contracting. So like, as a congresswoman, I can't control what the city of Columbia's hiring looks like, right? But there might be something we could do at a federal level that involves regulations with government contractors. If there are barriers to formerly incarcerated people getting jobs with government contractors, I don't know if that's the case, but that's one of the examples we could look at. And so a lot of what I will want to hear from this community tonight is, what barriers are you facing? Tell me what barriers you're facing, because I know I've done my homework on federal policy levels, and I have some tools and some levers, but I need to know what those barriers are, because they may not all be occurring to me. And then how can we go in and remove some of those barriers with the tools that we have?
That'll be one of the things that we thought, and you may want to get after the meeting, get with Lester, because he does a lot more with that than we do. One of the things, we were very intentional about where we met. We met in the 29203. When I was a little boy, this was the first place that my grandmother could afford to buy a house, literally right down the street of Meadow Lake. Meadow Lakes was at that point what the Summit is today to black folks. And when you go a little farther down the street, they came up with Summer Hill. Summer Hill was to black folks what Lake Carolina is to black folks now. It was the upper echelon of black being. The 29203, when I grew up, that was where black folks were. Right now, the 29203 is the highest per capita amputee rate in the country. They amputate more arms, legs, toes, fingers for folks in 29203 than anywhere in this country. They removed a grocery store. This area is now a food desert. I'm urban farming project. I grow food, and I grow food, and I ran a farmers market this summer. We were trying to feed folks healthier food because we're in the middle of a food desert. I specifically did it in the 29203 because we're right here in the middle of a food desert. They're closing grocery stores, but they opened up a dialysis center right in front of Meadow Lakes. Again, Meadow Lakes used to be the summit of the time, and now they put a dialysis center right in front of Meadow Lakes. They closed the grocery store. Listen to what I'm saying. They closed the grocery stores. They opened kidney dialysis centers because the blood pressure medicine that they give you when you don't eat right, your blood pressure goes up, you become diabetic. That blood pressure medicine destroys your kidneys. Somebody besides me has noticed that, but it seems to be big business because they put that kidney dialysis center right in front of the black community, and what used to be the upper class black community, which now is a lot of rental properties. So I need folks to start looking at that. Now, with all of that said, and I know I just said a lot, my biggest thing is economic development for my community. We are now in the House of Hathor, owned by Brother Jimmy Wright. I was very intentional on where we met because I wanted to bring attention not just to this group, but to this business. Because this business needs to thrive because we are literally thriving in this business. When we want to meet, we come here. No distractions, no time limit. Jimmy will stay here for as long as we stay here. So we had to be very intentional. How can you help us? How do you see yourself helping us develop economically in this community?
Yeah.
Does she need this tray or just shake? Or just me?
Okay. So one of the things in economic development that's really important to me is about the rural part of the district where I'm from. So this is a little bit less about 29203, but is about African-American men and women in the community and what they need in the rural parts of the county, which is where I'm from, or the rural parts of the district like Barnwell, and that's broadband. We have to have rural broadband. Where I grew up, we don't have high-speed internet, and you have so much of economic development now, especially getting startup, involves internet. Right? Like if you want to start, especially without a lot of capital, you don't start with a great big space like this, right? You start online. And if you don't have access to broadband internet, you don't have access to promoting whatever your business is online, you don't have access to getting online customers, and you don't have that kind of lower cost startup. And so that's something that I think is crucial for a large part of this district. When you're looking more here, there's, again, some more levers we can use. For instance, the Community Reinvestment Act is something I've worked with my lawyer hat on, and it provides mechanisms for banks to invest in minority businesses as well as minority neighborhoods and to provide more access to capital. And so one of the things I'd like to work with is the thing it's intended to do, are we not getting use out of it in the zip code because we don't know about it, because the banks aren't using it, because it's not being implemented the way we expected it to, or is it written as a bad law and we need to rewrite it, right?
I think the banks bury it. Through a cousin of mine, Patrick Patterson, I found out about the Community Reinvestment Act and tried to use it. And I literally went into about 7 banks in one day. And it is amazing how little they know about the Community Redevelopment Act. And they don't even know who to send you to. They literally do not know the person who's in charge. I had a bank I called in July call me back in October, and they still didn't have the right person for the Community Development Bank. What's the name? I'll tell you in a minute because I won't embarrass them. But they still did not have the right person. So the Community Development Act, as it is written, if the banks were actually following it as it were written, would be a good way to develop our community. Trouble is, banks don't follow it. Banks pretend like they don't know what it is, or they tell you their definition of it, and when you look at it as written and what the bank is saying that the definition of it is, two different things. So
that they don't know or they don't want to know.
Well, and that is a good question, because they buried, people at the top have buried it so long, and they hope it stays buried. Very few people ask about that. Adele mentioned it. I wasn't even going to say it until she mentioned it, but I'm glad she did, because that's a very good source of income or a source of investment into the community. Here's what Community Redevelopment Act is. Somebody somewhere noticed that banks would go into a community, say a black community, and they would bank. They would take people's money, but they wouldn't give those people in that community a loan. What that equates to is, I'll take your money, I'll sit it in my bank, I'll loan it out to somebody, but I won't let you get a portion of that money you earn. I make money off you, but I'm not going to put any of that money back in your community. Yeah, they refuse to.
I'll price the property so high that's in your community that you can't afford to live in that community and price you out.
Well, that's gentrification. What they did was redlining. They wouldn't make a loan to our community at all. So what they would not give us money in our community. They would literally sit a bank there, take our money, and take that money and loan it and use it. They wanted to come in because they needed the money we had so they could use it. They just wouldn't give us any money back. They wouldn't let you buy a house in the community if you lived a block from them. They wouldn't give you money to buy a house from them. They would not loan you the money. So Community Redevelopment Act came into play because somebody noticed, well, that's not really fair. You're taking these guys money, but you're not giving them any money back. So federal government required that they hold a certain amount of money aside, and that they mandatorily, it is required by law, give back money. You apply for it. It's not like a loan application. It's not matching funds. It's you apply, it is a worthy project. We think that is a worthy project. It would help the community. We are required to help this community that we live in. We should give that money. Period. Banks do not do that.
And if we have banks not doing that, that needs to be something that
problem again is, as old folks used to say, you know, if you fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. We've got to understand that nothing gets done without a demand, and when you have that demand, you also have to have the methodology and the way in which you make it happen. And I'll just say this for Adair. Know Adair well. She wasn't. I'm just putting this out while I have the time. Adair was the first white member of the Black Caucus, and that's before she was running for Congress. And I want to say that to you. She has been a faithful member. She's always been there. She's inputted, and what that says to me is that this is somebody who understands what's being done. And for all I can say, and without going too far and being maudlin about it, what we need is people, and remember, we're talking about replacing Joe Wilson. What we need is someone who has the compassion and the understanding and the skill to do what needs to be done. I worked with Adair as well in the South Carolina Democratic Party when she was in charge of registration, and she was the person we went to. She was the person we went to when we had problems in the polls. We called her up and said, "Hey, what's going on?" She said, "Okay, I'll take care of it." And I'm saying all that to say that we need people from the community who are interested in what we're doing and who have the talent and the skills to do it. And I'll stop there. Talk too much. Sorry.
I've got an issue, and it's a little different from what you're talking about, but it is a very significant issue. And Ms. Boroughs, I feel good to be able to call you a homegirl, because my roots run out of a little small town in Barnwell County called Blackville, South Carolina. Yes, okay, right down from the Healing Springs. You done been there before. This is my dilemma. Donald Trump has made it clear that when he returns in his second term as president, he is adamantly going after Social Security and making major changes that's going to impact how I feed my household. Please understand, politicians feel as though Social Security is something that they give us. In my 30 years of working, I earned that. I earned that. So, what will Ms. Boroughs do to ensure that my Social Security is secure, safe, and won't be disrupted to be used in countries like Syria? My money's being sent to the Ukraine. Not saying that they don't need it, but guess what? I need it in the 29203. What can you do to help me with that?
Yeah. So one of the nice things about the United States House, or being in the United States House, is it's the power of the purse. And when you're talking about money, the president cannot do a lot on the money front without Congress. And protecting Social Security, that's a non-negotiable for me. Going into this race, I wanted to make sure I was clear. A lot of legislating is to get things done, you make some compromises. But there are some things you need to know when you go in that you won't compromise on, right? There are certain things that are not negotiable. And protecting that is a non-negotiable for me. It is
a lifeline for too many people, and they've earned it. They have earned it year after year after year. It is the only income my daddy has, and he's worked his tail off 2 and 3 jobs at a time his whole life to get it, and he deserves it, and he needs it, and it just is non-negotiable for me. It's not. Right? And so when I am dealing, there's 435 members, we deal with all these legislations, right? And there's people want different things, and there might be some things I'm willing to negotiate and trade to get the things most important to me, but this is one of the things that's most important to me, right? That I will protect with my vote, and all of the relationships that I already have there and will build there will be a top priority. And I do not think the president will have the ability to convince members of Congress otherwise.
The problem that I see with Mr. Trump is he doesn't go to Congress with much of anything. He does it on his own, and it appears as though we can't do anything to stop that based on appearance.
So there's some things he can do on his own without Congress. There's a lot he can do on his own without Congress. The executive is a powerful branch, but this is something he can't do on his own. To take away Social Security, it will take an act of Congress. And so it is important. Separation of powers built into our government is important because it can be a backstop to certain things.
Republicans have not recognized a backstop since that man got in office. It's kind of hard. Well, I haven't seen a Republican with much backbone since Trump showed up. Next question, Todd.
Yes, I wanted to ask a question kind of piggybacking off of what Dexter was speaking of earlier. I'm too interested in economic development in our communities. And like you were saying, if you are elected, would you be someone that if Mr. Dexter has that type of issues, he's going to 7 banks trying to get information on the Community Redevelopment Program, and they should have that information if it's a federal program, saying they don't know should be unacceptable. Would you be someone that Dexter could call on, or I could call on, anyone in the community or in your constituents that could call on you or your office and say, hey, we got this type of problems here, can you help us, or can you reach out to someone that can help us in this situation? Also, do you have any ideas for economic programs specifically for black people? Not necessarily minority, but specifically for black people. Do you have any of those type of programs or ideas?
So the first question, absolutely. And I think there's one pledge I can absolutely make to you, and that is that you will have access to me, right? And I think you were right, Dexter, you were talking about where candidates show up. And it is, I think, right to think that if you don't have access to someone as a candidate, you probably don't have access to them in office, right? And I am here tonight because it's important to me that this community have access to me now and when I'm in office. And you will have that. You have my word. And when you have issues, we will help you get to the problem, whether it's me making a phone call, whether it's legislation, you will have that. And one of the things I'm most excited about in this job is what is called constituent services. It is having offices in the district on the ground here that help people with whatever issue they have every day. And if they need me to make some stuff move, I jump in and make it move, right? So you will have that access. On the second question about black businesses, I don't have specific ideas right now. I intend to before the election. So one of the things we've talked about in the team that I want to do is set up a roundtable with black business owners, right? And let's talk about what kind of barriers you're facing that I might not even know about, because I don't know your experience. I haven't had your lived experience. But what I can promise you is that I recognize you face barriers that other people don't. I'm very aware of the fact that a lot of me being here, I got a lot of things, opportunities that not everyone did. A lot of my opportunities in life were from the fact that I happened to be darn good at standardized tests. I mean, like really good at standardized tests. And I've taught classes and tutored students in just about every standardized test we have. SAT, LSAT for law school, GMAT for business school, GRE for graduate school, even the MCAT for medical school. And every student of color, black or otherwise, that I had, where I was tutoring them or teaching them on taking standardized tests, I said, you should answer these questions like you were a white girl or woman in California. SAT, if you're a 16-year-old white girl in California, how would you answer this question? Because I know the research, and I know that by just doing that, it can increase your test scores, right? So there's a lot of things in the system that's not fair. And what I can promise you is I'm aware of it, at least of that fact, that you will have access to me and that I will help you break down whatever barriers there are. And I don't always know all of the answers to it right here and now, but that is something I want to answer into before Election Day. And we're going to do some round tables. Let's see what issues you think you're facing, and then we can do it. I mean, for some businesses, it might be licensing, maybe a state licensing issue that I can't help with, but some of them might be federal licensing issues. Maybe there are other issues. Maybe it's access to capital, it's a Community Reinvestment Act. Whatever it is, let's get some specifics we can to make the path easier for you.
One note, in total transparency, and Adair didn't remember this until she came in. Now, the folks in this group know I'm a licensed hemp grower. Now, most of you on Facebook, because I don't put that on Facebook, this might be your first time hearing that. I grow hemp. I did it this year. My mama knew it too. Look, I grow hemp. And Adair actually helped me get my license. And what she did, we went to a meeting. She didn't know me from Adam, didn't know who I was. I didn't know if she was even running for anything then. She was just at the meeting. And she told me about some guys that were doing so. And it turns out that I think those guys must have got the attention of the governor, because after that, the governor decided, okay, everybody that applied is going to get a license. So I talked to Adair, and she didn't, when she walked in, I had to remind her of that. She didn't know she had helped me previously. So I tell you that, in all honesty, she does what she does just because she's good. She's just a nice person. This isn't an act. This isn't some folks come on and pretend like they're nice people, pretend like they really care about you, when as soon as they get out the door, all they want is your vote. And let me make this clear. All these presidential candidates that are showing up now and running around here, and I had my pick. If you follow me on Facebook, you know who my pick was. And what I've come to realize is that to get to the presidency, you have to come through, for the Democratic Party, you have to come through black folks in South Carolina.
That's right.
You got to come through black folks in South Carolina, and you got to come through South Carolina to get to the South. And you got to come through the South to get to the national. If you don't win the black folks in South Carolina, you don't win South Carolina. You don't win South Carolina, you don't win the South. You don't win the South, you don't win the nomination. But here's the problem. South Carolina is considered a red state. So after February 29th, 2020, all these candidates that are running around here telling you how great you are and what they're going to do for you, you ain't going to see them no more. They're not going to put another dime in South Carolina.
Speak the truth.
We have about 4 months, roughly, give or take, we have about 4 months that we got to get everything we can get out of those clients, out of those candidates, because we ain't never seeing them again. Because if they should happen to win, guess what? South Carolina's a red state. They're never going to put another dime or a foot here. So the next time they run in 2024, they're not coming back. The next time you're going to see a Democratic candidate, should a Democratic candidate win, will be 2028, when they got to stump again. That's how this works. That's how this breaks down. We got another question over.
If I can, it's not really a question. I see the elder left, but I just wanted to address what he was speaking on about the fear of possibly losing Social Security and not being able to put food on his table. And I know as the group for brothers only in a black male community, we got to do a little bit better taking care of our elders and our women in our community ourselves. I know legislation can help with everything, with some of that stuff, but there's some stuff we just got to take the initiative on without all of that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You ready?
Okay, my issue is this. I've been in business for 14 years, and I've done it by myself. No loan, no government program, just gut it out, miss meals, miss the mortgage, miss the light bill, miss whatever.
Real talk, right?
Now, I'm at the point where I'm trying to expand. I have a crew of, let's say 7, and trying to grow it to a crew of 15. The issue that I find is that they're okay as long as you're small. But when you try to get big enough to be an impact, they cut you off at the money train. Now, I like Johnny said, the issue we have is we have a lot of legislation that has no teeth. That's one thing I have. When you have your business roundtables, don't invite the familiar and don't invite the popular. Dig in the bushes and you'll get more information for your buck. Now,
I want your information before we leave.
Okay. And so, the thing we need out of you is we're tired of being prostituted. We're tired of you come around, not you in particular. They come around, they ask for the votes, they show up at our churches, they come to our meetings, and then after they get what they want, we're done. We're now, Donald Trump pulled, I think they said somewhere between 12 and 14% of the African American vote.
Yep, yeah, he did.
And he pulled it with a simple statement.
Black male.
Yeah. What have they done for you? When you get in your rooms with your Democratic constituents, tell them we're tired and we're not going to lay down for it anymore. If they want our vote, they better come to play ball. That's all I got to say.
It's fair.
Can we get the camera on? Let's.
I have a concern with law enforcement. When Donald Trump became the president, my wife left this country. She's gone. She's that afraid for me. Every day she FaceTimes me on cell phone every single morning to make sure that I'm alive, because she knows I'm not going to run. I'm not afraid of this devil. I'm going to call him what he is, a devil. But I want to know, how can these brothers of mine can be protected when we have no Department of Justice? That's my main concern. If we have to use the ballot, we're going to use it. But the present climate is forcing us to also consider using the bullet. Is this the kind of country that we want to live in? I say no. We want to know right now, what are all of us and our candidates going to do to stop the senseless police profiling on its citizens of this country? If it doesn't stop, you're going to force us to take care of it ourselves. And we will do it, if necessary. That's my question.
So, I saw more than one profiling case during my time at the federal court. And to be honest with you, I did not understand how bad it was, or how frequent, or the things that happened. And one thing that I think has changed recently for the good is now we have things on camera, where before you would have a he said, she said type of trial with a cop and someone else.
That's
now,
if they turn the camera on.
If they turn the camera on.
And if they release video,
And
which they don't have to do.
When they do release it, they still get off.
Yeah.
They kill you and they don't
They
get
still
10
get
years.
off.
Philando Castile was murdered in his car for going to get his license like the guy told him to do. Shot that dude dead in his car in front of his baby and his wife. And nothing happened to that guy. He walked. You can't do anything about that. We just stuff that we remember. That is ingrained in our society. The things that we listen to as Sean Hannity, and they swear that their system is fair. And if black cops were shooting white guys in their car in front of their child, if their 4-year-old watched their daddy die by the bullet of a black cop, I don't think Hannity would be saying the same thing. I don't believe we do it. I do apologize. Go back to your
No, you're right. Well, and I don't think, having grown up as a white girl, I didn't see it, right? And I think there are a number of people in the white community that are just now starting to realize, oh my God, this is happening in our country, right? Because it wasn't our experience, and it's something that we're now having to face as saying like, wow, this is happening right here and now in 2019. I think we have to continue to do things that makes it easier to prove in court, because that's where you get problems with people getting off, right? Like, we have got to require and have more things like the body cams and the car cams. They have to be on. There has to be consequences if they're not on, because that is the way that I feel like it's opening up the eyes to a broader community about what's actually happening in a lot of these instances, and it's the way that we're going to actually get to hold people accountable. And I think without that, you're going to have a hard time convincing people sometimes, right? We don't want that to be our world, and that's not what we want to think is happening.
People have to be willing to serve on juries too.
Yeah.
I have a question. You're going to be running for Congress on the federal level, right? And I want to just speak in regards to the collateral consequences that are attached to individuals in our community when it comes down to felony convictions. And it's just more than just ban the box. It's like, what's the position that you hold when it comes to SNAP benefits when individuals who have been convicted of a drug charge, being an addict, who are addicted to that particular drug, and their SNAP benefits are cut off. And the second is the housing situation, where we have housing authorities. When it's talking to collateral consequences, the housing authority is now removing people out of their homes because they have felony convictions. So these are things that I'm really concerned about. When he mentioned about the ban about criminal justice is what I'm really very passionate about. I think that some individuals in our community, or those who come into our community, don't look at it in those particular lens. How mass incarceration have impacted our community and it's retiring. When you're talking 1 in 3 South Carolinians, almost everyone in this room knows someone that has been convicted of a crime. And there's nothing on a federal level to address these issues when it's coming down to even individuals now applying for a federal grant to go to school because they have a felony drug possession charge. They're denied the federal FAFSA. They're being denied that. So, in your role as the Congress on that federal level, those are some of the things that I would like to see or hear more about. Is like, what's your position when it comes down to the ban the box on the federal level to get people to be working with the federal government to housing situation? You can affect that from a federal down to a state level. Like, how could we create a better situation where individuals are trying to take care of their family and live in a situation and now they're being evicted, not because they're not paying rent, because of a felony conviction, something that took place 30 years ago, and is still being impacted by that. And those are some of the things that when we talk about criminal justice, how it impact black people in this community. When we talk in this community, we got to look at all of those things like that. When you're talking about a food desert, people are being denied SNAP benefits because of this, and now we have this opioid addiction crisis going on in the country, and we're creating all of these rehabilitation programs for these individuals and denying black people the opportunities that they need to be able to thrive and live in this community. So that would be my concern as you move forward in creating your political platform, continue to grow that out. And I would like to hear more about the criminal justice piece on the federal level, how you can invoke that here in the state level.
Let me jump in real quick because we're running short on time. We're going to respect the hour, and if we have to respect this house meeting first, because we were actually in the middle. James Shad agreed to let us host this during a meeting, the For Brothers Only meeting. So we got to respect that. If Shad is okay with the running over a little bit, then we have to say at least to the folks at home, okay, first hour's up. If you want to tune out, you can tune out. And if it's still going good, we can go good. Okay, so James is cool with us going. So folks at home, we're getting close to an hour. So if you want to still tune in, great. We'd love to have you. We're going to run a little bit longer than an hour. But one of the things I got to mention, I got a friend from high school who would just roll her eyes if I did not mention it. So Jennifer Clyburn, this question is for you. This is education. So we need to know how you can or plan to affect education. And when I say education, I don't just mean a 4-year college. I was blessed to be able to go on and complete a master's. That's not everybody's path. And I know a whole lot of people with a master's that are unemployed. But when I say education, what I mean is I do some substitute teaching up in Winsboro County, and man, I'm telling you, if I had the opportunity that I'm looking at these kids having, I probably would have been a welder or a brick mason or something, because those skills pay bills. You were talking about 6-figure incomes from being an electrician, an industrial electrical tech. You come out of Midlands Tech in 10 months and you're making like $52,000 a year. This is for kids. So if you got that little black boy that's in class and like, I really don't like school, I'll do what I got to do to get through it, but I'm better with my hands, which a lot of our kids are, there are various options. We got to learn to respect the color of everybody's collar. You got a blue collar or a white collar, I'm wearing a purple collar, it don't matter. You got to respect everybody's collar, because those skills pay bills. And we used to at one time when we've had our community, that was what we did. I had a great uncle who was a brick mason, and he did well for his family. So those are the kind of things that we need to look to getting back to. So with that being said, do you have an idea for an educational platform? So how would you go about that?
Yeah, so on the issue you're talking about, I think apprenticeships are amazing. There's actually an apprenticeship school in our district in Graniteville. It has a couple of the building trades like iron workers, and a lot of those workers, they're going through the apprenticeship learning how to do, it's mostly rebar, they specialize in rebar, at the same time that they're working at Savannah River site, and there's some different building trades in there. The problem is those apprenticeships are often, the really good ones, are often attached to unions, and we don't have so many unions here, right? So the really good ones, like this one that we have in Graniteville on iron workers, they also have a painter's apprenticeship there, an electrician, is the union members pay for that. It's free. It's free for the apprentices, right? The union members are taking money out of their own paycheck to pay that, which is really cool, right? And then you come out with really good jobs, and we need to look at expanding that, and that's going to mean that those programs are amazing, and we can do that. But to make use of those best programs, like union can't be a dirty word, right? Frankly.
Well, you know you're South Carolina.
Right? Because there's some really great apprenticeship stuff we can do in these areas if we're just open to it.
Okay, so
Yep.
do you have a plan to action as far as the private prison system? We have a system where prisons get money for bringing in people, and my people are the people that are filling up the prisons and making like $160,000 for a kid. Do we actually have a plan to action? Because a lot of the bad policing, I think, is funded by the bad prisons.
Was at least encouraged.
It's definitely encouraged. So I would like to know somebody who actually has a plan for this.
Well, so on that issue, I think it's mostly about not privatization. The way we've set up the privatization structure in prisons is we have incentivized incarceration and bad treatment, right?
Over
Like we
education,
said
let's tie that in there.
Yep, we have economically incentivized very bad practices that don't help our society become better. And there are places where the private market works great, and we should make use of that. But when your number one and only goal is making money, that's not how you're going to get the best results, right? You need a mission that is besides making money if we want to have a prison system that rehabilitates, that only incarcerates the people that are necessary to incarcerate. So I think we have to get out of the privatization of prisons. But since if you look at the stats, that's every time we have privatized prisons, things have gotten worse, not better. So that's got to be an area where we recognize the limits of what's doing. So that I think we just have to get out of, because the incentive structure is just wrong, and it's not that complicated. It's an obvious economic incentive structure.
Let me jump in real quick. So we got two. Next question and then the following question. But before that, I want to ask the person who's handling the camera. At some point, I want you to pan around the room, because I want to really, really, really drive home the fact that there are a lot of black men here, and some of them have left, so you actually missed some. There are a lot of black men here. They're here at 7 o'clock on a on a Monday night when Dallas Cowboys playing. That's my team. I am here at 8. Right now, my Cowboys kicking off, and I'm here. You know why? Because it's meant more. And I want you to understand that black men care. We care so much, we missing the boys play ball tonight. And we gonna win. We're missing the boys play ball so that we can be here and be a part of this and let folks know that we care. And while we're doing that, notice we were not extremely rough on Adair. So if there are candidates out there and you're a little sensitive, you're scared to be around a bunch of black guys, we weren't rough on her. So you could come, feel free to come in and see us and talk to us. You can talk to us about what we care about in our community, and we'll talk back to you calmly, like regular civilized people. We do that. So feel free, please come in. Let me introduce some brothers right now. Let me take the time while we got this stopped so I can introduce some people while Shay is moving the camera around. Let's start right there with Johnny Cordero. He is the head of the South Carolina Black Caucus. So I think, my opinion, there are only 2 real reasons you don't talk to black men. You don't know how or where, or you don't want to. I am right now taking away the you don't know how or where. That's Johnny Cordero. You talk to him, and it's like talking to us. My name is Dexter Ashford. Talking to me is like talking to us. We get it done. James Shadd, come out. James has been behind the scenes taking pictures and stuff, so you may not have seen James. That's James Shadd. James Shadd started this for Brothers Only. Talking to James is like talking to us. Shay, come out. Shay is actually the guy that's been turning the camera, so the camera's about to stand real still. Hold on. Shay, come out. That's Shay Harley, House of Harley. It is his program that my show is hosted on. Shay, talk to Shay is talking to us. Who am I missing? Mike, where you at? Mike Bailey.
Right here.
Mike Bailey, stand up, Mike. Stand up. That's Mike Bailey, Minority Eye. Has one of the largest viewers of black news media in the state. How many people, Mike?
400,000.
Boom. Wow. If you want to talk to black folks, that's probably who you need to talk to. Talking to him is like talking to us. So there is no more excuse about you don't know how to talk to us, you don't know where to talk to us. My name is Dexter Ashford, CrossRoads. You talk to me, you talking to us. If you want to come out and meet us, we're the black guys. Come on out and meet us. Come talk to us. We're civilized. We didn't hurt Adele. Okay, that's about as nice as I can be, y'all. I'm gonna go back to this question number.
I'm gonna add one more thing right here. I'm gonna make you a third pledge. You'll have access to me, but also it's okay to make me uncomfortable. I think there's so many issues that we cannot make progress on if people aren't willing to be uncomfortable.
No, my team definitely asked you what they wanted to know.
And
now they were polite, but they definitely asked you what they wanted to know.
And I want you to know, you will have access to me, but you can ask me tough questions. You can tell me I'm wrong. You can show me how I'm wrong. Tell me I'm wrong, and I can grow. But you can make me uncomfortable. That's okay. That's how I'm going to get better. That's how I'm going to understand the experience that you're in. And so it should not be that you have to play so nice to get candidates to come in here to this community. And I don't want you to think, I want you to know that you can be tough on me and you can hold me accountable and you can make me uncomfortable and you will still have access to me.
Here's the thing, I'm gonna tell the truth. And we appreciate you coming in and being ready to duke it out with us. We like that. But truth of the matter, had we beat you up, they would never have come back to us. You can say that as much as you want, but we walk this walk. Yeah. Had we been rough on you, these folks would, I'm gonna go ahead and say it, the Elizabeth Warrens who we cannot find, and that used to be my house. I was riding with Elizabeth hard. I was arguing people down. You could not bad talk Elizabeth Warren. I can't drag Elizabeth Warren in here. Elizabeth Warren's people give me a mouthful of excuse about why Elizabeth won't show up. And we haven't been rude, we haven't been rough, but we are black men and we have a concern. Now Elizabeth shows up for black women. I can show you a picture of Elizabeth sitting in a room full of black women. She went to the Essence Music Festival. She didn't have a problem with that. She went down to Atlanta when they had that Women's Fest, and she didn't have a problem with that, but she can't show up for black men. Her people can't seem to get her in the room with black men, and we're sitting right here. You want my vote, but you can't come to me.
Oh, that ticked me off because I rode real hard for Warren. I made a lot of people mad about Warren. Now, y'all, we gonna have to answer some other questions. Let me stop talking. My wife gonna get on me.
May I just say something?
Can we get that camera turned to him?
On behalf of Adair, if I may, real quick.
Go ahead.
Now, just remember this. Just visualize this situation. We started the Black Caucus a year ago, and we were the first Black Caucus in South Carolina Democratic Party in history. Okay. Adair, and we were some radicals. And Adair was our first white member. Now, she came to meetings all the time. So if you think that she doesn't have tough skin, I want to tell you, she sat there and she took it, and it was no holds barred. Nobody backed off, and she stood up, and that is why I want everybody to understand that this is a person whose heart is in the black community, and who will, in my humble estimation, who will support our issues and fight our issues. And with that, I just want to ask you one question. Somebody had to ask it. Adair, reparations. Tell them what you think about reparations, please.
I support HR 40. Look, we gotta have. I don't think it's my role as a white woman to come in here and say what things should look like. And this is why we need a commission to look at it and to look at the options and to have the community that we have harmed as a country in a horrible, horrible way say, look, here's our options, here's what we need for some reconciliation. So I'm in support of HR 40 in the commission. We gotta do that. Yep.
Yes, your turn. Yes, I'm sorry.
All right. I got two things. We're talking about profiling. I'm gonna give you an incident that happened to my brother. This was before Donald Trump got in office. He was working at Pizza Hut when he was in school. He gets followed by a police officer from work all the way to our house because he is a black male. He was 6'3", he's 230 pounds. Is something wrong when my dad went to the police station and the police officer, he told him the police officer it's not black men, she doesn't like young people. He was sticking up for his officer. You don't need to be on a police force if you're profiling young people. But I know he was sticking up for his officer. My brother was big and black, and that's why she followed him home, because he was going into a predominantly white neighborhood and he was getting off work. It was not like he was going to a party. He had his Pizza Hut uniform on going to the house. Another thing I have to say is, I have an associate's degree, I also have a bachelor's degree in x-ray. I did x-ray for 20 years. And that was an associate's degree. Why aren't there programs for people who can go to Midlands Tech, get a good degree, a 2-year degree? There are plenty of degrees to go get a 4-year degree to go to college. But you can't go to Midlands Tech and get a scholarship to go to x-ray or to go to an associate degree program, get a good education, come out making $50,000 a year, and get a job in the hospital to help people out of school. But there's plenty of programs for 4-year degrees.
There's I know this because I love Midlands Tech. I graduated from South Carolina State, but I have taken so many courses at Midlands Tech, it's ridiculous. They call me an alumni. They actually have the Quick Jobs program, and they also used to be Project Hope. Project Hope is specifically for medical stuff. I used to work there, I know. Project Hope is specifically for medical. And if you live in Winsboro County, here's the beauty of it. You live in Winsboro County, you go to Midlands Tech for free. So there are some, it's just that we don't know about them. We don't have them compiled and we aren't passing them out. But yeah, Midlands Tech is actually very prolific in helping people. They want you there. They actually act like they want you there.
They partner with SC Works to do the WIA programs.
They also have programs for like the welding and the
they have the quick. It's called Quick Jobs. Like that. That's what I was talking about. The 5, 10 month, the 10 month and 12 month program is at Midlands Tech.
Those
are
what we
quick
need to
jobs.
Spread to these young people who don't want to go to a 4-year degree program.
The president of Midlands Tech would love to hear you say that. He would. I
I'm
literally would shake your hand and be happy to hear you say that.
I'm trying to steer young people to a 2-year. I said there's nothing wrong with going to a 2-year program.
Let me.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Adair.
Well, I was going to say, one of the things, too, that's on my platform that I do want to hear about that I think will help with some of these is increasing the Pell Grant. When I was a kid and I was a Pell Grant recipient, you could get, if you qualified for a Pell Grant, it would cover Midlands Tech or Aiken Tech or like a lot of these schools. And the cost of even tech and certainly the cost of college has just gone up so tremendously. It's tripled. And the Pell Grants have been left, right? And that's how a lot of people who don't have parents that can afford to pay for college used to get there. And now it doesn't cover it. And I think that we need to increase Pell Grants to a level where they can cover Midlands Tech, where students have those opportunities. And that's something that it's very specific on my platform or website that I think has been an issue in higher ed.
Now, you were speaking of the unions. I was a shop steward. I was a teamster. Okay. What they did to devalue the unions in South Carolina was they said, if a union provides a service, they basically have to provide it to everybody, which made it unfair for the union members. So when you get to, I pray you get where you aim for. But when you get there, you're gonna have to work on taking away the laws that weaken the union. And I wish you the best, but I will tell you now, they have a sinister way of doing things. They don't attack you directly with laws. They change little regulations to make the law that's in existence of no value.
My question is, the biggest problem that we have in our community is that we don't have enough economic development for black people in our own communities. They have allowed other cultures to come into our community and set up shop and don't give anything back to our community. And there's enough black people in our community, African Americans, that want to open up shops, but they make it difficult for us to open up stores in our own community. But yet they make it easier for other cultures to come from countries and set up shop in our communities. What can we do, or how can you help us? How can you assist us in opening up more black businesses in our community so we can have an economic base for our own people? Grocery stores, doctors' offices, or even beautification projects so that we can make it attractive enough for us to even want to open up a business in our own community. We have an empowerment zone that's really right now, they're stopping at Columbia College and wanting to come all the way up to the city line stops at the bridge, and they were not coming up any further to beautify this area so that we can have better businesses or more businesses on our street. And what's lacking here is, even for us to support you or any candidate, we need an economic base in our community so that we can support you. Okay, so without black businesses to say that we have a valuable economic base in our community, it makes it difficult for us to be a part of the political game to support you without the economic base. All of us have homes, we have apartments, whatever we have very little we can give as individuals than we can as businesses if we have something that, if we have more valuable black businesses in our community. How can you help us with that?
So I actually want to hear more about you were saying we made it harder for us to open up shop. How do you have, tell me more about that. They
have forgivable loans. Okay, forgivable loans, they give them to a lot of other cultures. Gotcha. We have the China ones. We have they're owning all the gas stations now. So they can come over here. Hotels. They have all these different businesses they can open up shop, forgivable loans, easier for them than it is for us. They take us through a lot of red tape. As a matter of fact, a young lady she's opening up a nail salon right here in this plaza. It took her 5 months to open up a nail shop here because they told her that she needed all these different things to open up, and they wanted to. It was going to cost her like $40,000 to get what she needed for a shop for a nail salon. But she found out 5 months later, she just brought her furniture in today. She said no, she found out she didn't need any of the things that they told her. They were just trying to squeeze more money out of her. Okay, and so I said, well, how did you find it out? She said, I had to jump through so many hoops just to find that out, just to find the information out. And she was about to give them $40,000 to put this stuff up in a store that she would not even need.
Wow.
And so that's the problem that we're having. And then that's for her. But for black men, it's even double.
Yeah.
You know, we have to open up shops in our wife's names so that we can get the benefits that we should be able to get ourselves. It makes it that much more difficult for us to do anything. So now, again, to have an economic base in this community, it takes an act of Congress. It takes, or actually more than that, it takes us to do things underhanded in order for us to do that. And then we're looked at as criminals then.
Right.
Okay, see, and that's the problem we're running up against as black men. You know, and so, you know, and some of us have been fortunate enough to where, you know, you have to know somebody that knows somebody that knows somebody. When it should be, I should have that liberty, that freedom as just as a human being, to be able to open up a business if I want to open up a business for my people.
Yeah. Yeah, it seems like in some, now the forgivable loans might be something on, I want to look into that because I actually don't know what they are. A lot of the issues I've seen, and this is just when at the nonprofit we ran, I would represent small businesses and black-owned small businesses. And a lot of the issues they faced were licensing type issues and state and local regulations and having to get permits with the city and the county and so they're local issues that I would help businesses navigate in my attorney hat, but don't necessarily have a federal solution on those. And so this is one of the things I'm interested in doing in kind of like this economic round table with black businesses is which of these barriers are local issues that maybe I don't have direct control over as a congresswoman, but maybe I can help move the needle with talking with other electeds, and which ones are things that, like, if we had changes in federal regulations or rules, could we remove some barriers for you? So, yeah.
Adair, I believe that you will be a good candidate. I believe that if you get the election, that you will facilitate ways for black men and black people in general to be successful economically, politically, and socially. But one of the major problems we're having as black men in particular is because we are the antithetical threat to white world supremacy and the white man's global domination project. What that does is create us systems and institutions that are set up to keep us dysfunctional and functioning in the society. What we have to do as black men is what we haven't been doing to stop some of this from happening. We have to become supremely organized. Our lack of organization keeps others coming at us as predators, and we are their prey. Our politicians can't do but so much if we are not organized. We say we love each other, but our disorganized love is not as effective as others' organized hate. So we have to put some of the responsibility on ourselves to make sure that we are effectively and supremely organized to the point that others fear doing to us what they have been doing to us and getting away with for decades and centuries. And until we take on that onus of that masculine principle that fights instead of flight, meaning fighting whether it's intellectual, whether it's economics, whether it's politically, whether it's socially, or whether it's physically, we are going to continue to be the butt and the brunt and the butt of everybody's joke because we are not organized. So even if we have a good political person in office, if we are not supremely organized effectively to the point where when a position that we have, that we want, that we need, and we present it to her or any other political leader. Because as you just stated, dear brother, right here, but that young lady had to almost pay $40,000 in the city of Columbia. It's a black city that's led by black officials. So it's not just the color, it's the system that is set up for our demise.
You're right.
So they have to fear putting on us those kinds of pressures, whether it's police profiling, whether it's economic detriment, whether it's political just powerless politically. We have to make them fear through our supreme organization and organizing skills, putting that on us, and we continue to take it. Now I'm going to conclude in this. Ezra Parks, a white sociologist, said that the Negro male is the lady of the races among men. Why did he say that? Is that a true statement? We have to be honest with ourselves. Nobody takes, as a nation of men, nobody takes what we take. We put up with too much. We have lost our masculine principle. We have lost our testicular fortitude. We have lost that because we have somehow allowed our mindset to become feminized, and we think that we must take it in order for us to get ahead so that we don't get hurt in the process. But what manner of men will not defend himself, his family, or his children and his women and want to be respected? If we want to be respected, then we have to take on the mantle of masculine manhood. And masculinity does not abuse femininity. Masculine men protect women, children, the elderly, and one another. And we get to the point where we're afraid to be a man. That's why we're getting our butts handed to us. And I want to say another word, but I know I'm Facebook Live.
And we appreciate it.
But I appreciate you. We appreciate you. And we're going to make you uncomfortable sometime. Because it's okay. Because she's been in the black caucus. She know how I am. Because I've asked her tough questions. Johnny's asked her tough questions. Michael asked her tough questions. She never ran from it. So it's okay for us to make our political leaders, whether they're white or black, uncomfortable. Because we as men, once we become supremely organized, we'll put a stop to all this madness that is happening to us, our women, our children, our elderly, and our community.
And everybody in here knows he is right.
We got to get out of that. I got mine, you get yours, and start working together.
There you go.
Thank you. Exactly. Ron.
Yeah, Adair, thanks for being here, first of all. My question is, of course you're here because the black vote does count, and it does matter. And regardless of what Joe Wilson or anybody else does, I'm not really wrapped up into that, to be quite honest. The question I do want to ask, though, is what are the top 3 concerns that you're paying attention to for black voters in the black community? And how do you plan to address it and help us come up with solutions for it? Because quite honestly, I mean, we hear them, we know them, and I'm at a point where we're actually tired of talking about it. And so when you get to that space of what are your solutions, like really precise and consistent, that says, hey, when you walk out of this room, what are the top 3 things that we need to know that you're going to do for the black community walking out of this room? Because we've talked about a lot, but what are the top 3 things that's on your list that you know you need to do and you will do for the black community?
Okay. So on the first one, economic issues have come up consistently tonight, and something I've heard, and economic power in our society is power, right? So we are going to have, and I've been taking notes, we're going to do this roundtable, but we're going to have specific things we can do to increase and make more equitable economic power, right? That's clearly something we've got to figure out on this group. Second, I think for me, the other thing I've heard so far, and tell me if I'm wrong, because that's why I'm here, that I have heard repeatedly from the black community is we have to do something about our criminal justice system and the inequities in it. We have to find some way to make that more fair, make charges, sentencing, all of that. Like, we are over incarcerating. And so that's the second area that at least I have heard so far as being the most important. Those are 2. If you want to add a third, I'm all ears, that have come up repeatedly for me in my conversations in the black community that I want specific solutions on to put on my platform.
Yeah, which is good, because I think the thing that I'm paying attention to is what are you hearing? Yeah. And if it's not what we're saying and you're making up your own story, then that's not going to work for us, because it'd be more of the same stuff again. So with the rhetoric won't work for us. So I agree with the economic development. We have to have a fair opportunity to have economic development in place. We also have to make sure that we're taking care of people that are reentering our society, which is super important. But there's another major milestone that's impacting our black community in our entire state, regardless of race, which is our education system. It's flawed. The money's not put in there. You're watching schools that are in rural areas that don't have the resources or the education. And we're having educators that are coming out of college with a $40,000 student loan and want them to work as an educator in a $20,000 area. And we want those schools to be sustainable and help our kids be successful. So they're starting off out, behind anyway, because the education system is not supporting that. So I think we do have to take on that huge tackle of making sure our kids have a fair opportunity like you had. And we got to be able to address openly in our society about white privilege. It does exist, and we don't know how to work all the way around it, and we won't have that conversation at the table. And so I think we got to have those conversations when you do roundtables. So pulling real people to the table from all sectors of our society to be able to have it, even when we look at our community, there's a difference between Lexington and Columbia. It's huge, but we won't address it. We won't really talk about it, and we won't begin to go after it because there are a lot of people with a lot of money that don't want to have that conversation. And so I think we'll need you at that table because there are some conversations in there that you'll get in way before I will get in. And it's because you're a white woman. And I'm okay with that, but I want you to be at the table having a conversation for us. So, I mean, it does exist. So thank you for being here, first of all, and listening. But I definitely want to make sure what are the top 3 things that you're going to walk away with from this meeting, from this conversation to help our black community, because we can't do it. Quite honestly, we won't get it done without a white person on our team in this state. It's not going to happen. It's sad to say it, but it's really true. And so we got to work together. We got to have someone like you that's going to be in some of those rooms that get us to the table. And then once we get to the table, we can't be the last person at the table. And so for our guys, when we get there, we got to do the right thing. So Johnny can't be the last African American that's doing what he's doing. It just can't happen. We got some young brothers in here that got to step up. We got to have it. And I love that we're having this conversation, but I'll take a side turn. We also got to make sure in our own community that we're doing what's right too. We got to invest in what we believe in, and we're not. And I see it every day. We have to invest in what we believe in. And so there's a turn that we're going to have to make too. But so thank you for being here. Thank you for having us here, at this organization and at this facility. So thank you for small business owners. So those are the questions I had for you.
Hey Dex, I'm sorry. Tom, I have one more question. Yes, I wanted to take the moment to make you a little uncomfortable. All right.
Bring it. Let's do it.
You are in politics now, correct? Locally? And how long have you been in politics locally?
Well, so I guess locally, I only moved to Columbia a few years ago. So I've been doing voter protection in the space my entire adult life. I've done everything from, depending on the cycle, poll watching to training to being in the boiler room, which is where people call attorneys when there's something helping on voter suppression. We can go out and fix it. So that's been a space I've been in my whole life. Here locally, after I moved to Columbia, I got involved with the Richland County Party. I was an officer there and involved in the party in that way. But I've only lived in Columbia a few years. I'm from the district, but when I've lived, I was in D.C. when I was in DOJ. I lived in Charleston for years when I was with the court. And so I haven't been steeped in Columbia in the way that I'm steeped in some of the rural parts of the district.
Okay. Well, with that being said, I would like to, in conjunction with Mr. Kadira and the local Black Caucus, it's to me, I think before we have these discussions sometimes, I would like for the politician to have some kind of specific ideas or have some knowledge on what our issues are in advance, as opposed to maybe coming to look as if you want to know now because you want our vote. If you knew what the issues were before you came to sit down and ask us what our vote was, you would have more specific answers. So it kind of seems like pandering. I taught you, I asked you what your questions are, what your concerns are, when I want your vote, but when you're not looking for our vote, it's not a concern or it's not a discussion. Is that the case in the Black Caucus? Do they not discuss specific issues in the Black community?
So in the Black Caucus, and Johnny can speak to it more, it's a lot about political power, not about like economic or something here, right? And we've talked a lot about things like reparations. That's part of why I'm here now, because we're a year from the election. And when we talked about this, I wanted to come in and have a conversation and get information for you so I can go back and do my homework, right? And we can come up with specific policies. And if I don't have specific policies, by election day a year from now, don't vote for me, right? Like, that's why I'm here now, because I have a year and I need to listen to you early in the process. I need to hear your barriers now so I can do my homework and have some solutions, right? But that's very fair, right? Like, And when I get there, like, I expect this room, and I expect Craig and Johnny to be holding me accountable for what I said I was gonna do, right? And what I said that I was gonna still be in this community after I was elected.
Man.
So, go ahead. Last question.
I just want to address this brother's question. And I think your point is well taken. To talk directly to you. Our idea was very simple. Our idea is that what politicians always do is they come into the black community and they tell us, we're going to do this for you, we're going to do that for you. Well, we're not going to do that anymore. And our thrust was to go into the black community and to ask people. And we're having listening sessions, and we've had listening sessions throughout the state for the specific purpose of coming in and listening to the communities and saying, hey, what do you want us to talk about? We are not a political organization in the sense that we're running for anything. All we're trying to do, we exist for one singular purpose, and that's to ensure that the African American vote is respected and that you exercise the power that we have. We refer to it as power proportionality. We want the power that we are entitled to, and we're going to make sure that we get it, because every politician, we don't go to politicians. The politicians come to us. And they come to us, and if I'm, Dexter, correct me if I'm wrong, as I understood how this happened, you invited
Elizabeth Warren.
Yeah, exactly. And we had a conversation about that, and we had the same difficulty that he had. If they can't support us, they can't get our support, and it's real simple. And politicians now understand that. So I agree with what you're saying, and just remember that. And by the way, we'll be having our next plug-in. We'll have our next Black Caucus meeting right here on Saturday the 9th. If you want to find out what we do, we're here at 11 o'clock from 11 to 1, right in this spot. So come here and hear what we do. But I understand your point. You're absolutely right. The days that they're going to pander to us and use us are over. Thank you.
All right, guys, let's do this, because we said we'd end at 8, and it's going on 9. We still sit here talking. Yeah, my boys, I'm about to miss the first half. But never mind it. Look, this is what we got to do. The purpose in this was, and I'm blunt. I mean, if y'all know me by now, I'm blunt. I'm gonna say it right up front. The purpose in this was so folks understood that they needed to address black men because black men vote, and then to put black men in front of them so that they can see, okay, we're really not that fearful. You can come talk to us and we'll be okay with you. And we're going to ask you some hard questions, because if we hadn't seen you for a while, we want to know what you've been doing and why you're here. Elizabeth Warren. And I'm going to go off on this rant. I'm going to go off on this right now. How in the world can you be behind in the polls? Mike said don't do it. I'm going to be quiet. God. Okay. But anyway, what we need to do is share this. We need to share this. You need to go home and put this on your Facebook page and tell all of your friends to put it on their Facebook page. We need 100,000 eyes on this, because politicians don't believe you until you show them the eye count that you count. They need to see that eye count to understand, yeah, you really count. I can get into 100,000 homes, 100,000 eyeballs, sets of eyeballs will see me if I go talk to these guys. We need to blow Adair up. Adair's phone needs to be ringing tomorrow with donations, with volunteers, with people that want to come out and say, look, those guys said enough good things about you, and some of them didn't even know you were running and you were still helping. That everybody wants to help her, everybody wants to donate to her, and we want to get rid of Joe Wilson. There we go. We want to help Adair first, then get rid of Joe Wilson. Kill two birds, one stone. But with that being said, and we are way over time, what I'm going to do now is go ahead and wrap it up. So if all hearts and minds are clear, thank everyone who's viewed, thank everyone who's come out, and we will see you next time. We're going to be, we've got some other folks lined up, so we'll be doing this again. And we look forward to hearing from you. If you want your men's group to be a part of it, please let us know so we can make space for you. And if you have some questions you want to ask, please contact us. I said early in the video, those guys you can contact. You can reach out to me on my Facebook page, Dexter Ashford, James Shadd on his Facebook page, Johnny Cordero on his Facebook page, Michael Bailey on his Facebook page. Who did I miss? House of Hathor. Adair, I missed Adair. For Congress, please reach out to Adair. Go to my Facebook page and her picture's on there. It tells you where to go, everything. So with that being said, guys, thank you very much for coming out, for attending, spending that extra hour with us. And who do we have? Jason. And Jason, come here, come forward, because I meant to do this. Jason is running for sheriff. I went to high school with Jason. But Jason is running for sheriff, and I would be remiss if I did not bring Jason forward, since he's actually a member of our group, and we want to be able to support our own for a very important position. So, Jason, and we may even be doing one of these with Jason at one point. So, all right, guys, thanks very much, and that's the show. More people ain't never talking to me. Never see him. I was like, boy, my chest done puffed out. Oh, I was gonna let it go. Man, I was about to rip on her. How you gonna be behind in the pole and you literally don't show up to the people you need to help you in the pole? How you gonna do that? We're offering you. All you gotta do is show up for free. Oh my God. The word. I'm about to
Yes, sir. Gotta get you to sign? Yes. Please do. If you didn't sign up, fellas, we got a sign up sheet. We want to stay connected with you. Right, cuz? Good to see you, bro. Yes, sir. Tell everybody I said hello. You know I will. Okay, man. Love you, bro. Hey, I'll keep you posted when Tracy, she's gonna get promoted to major. I'll keep you posted. Please do. I gotta be there. All right, major. Yeah, man. That's what I'm talking about. All right, bro. Take it easy, man. Okay, thank you for coming. Appreciate you.
Don't get me wrong, sometimes it's necessary, but
Yes, sir. Yeah. You want to stay with me? You got to do something. No, I don't have to do it. You got it? Okay. All right.
Mike, Johnny,
take a photo. Okay, very good. Right here. Okay. Okay. Y'all hadn't signed in. Please sign in, fellas. Okay.
I told him I'll bring him next time.
Okay.
Y'all brothers, before y'all roll out, let's take a picture real quick.
Sure.
Nothing right here.
Oh, everybody shake? Yeah. Everybody? All right, fellas, let's get a photo quick. Brother Conwell, take a photo.
Jason, come on.
All right, Shay, we ready?
You always put the short guy.
Get to this game. Wait, camera. What do you want him to see? Take the picture. He's grabbing the brothers. Yeah, they want to.
Adair, step up this way.
Yeah, front.
Right there.
They got your back.
They can't see you back there.
They don't see you left unbruised. We ain't here.
Chairman.
Like on skull.
Yeah, that's right, the chair.
And then set a time on that thing and jump in.
Proprietor, thank you for hosting.
Once I get one of them things, hold on.
Oh, I'll take it.
Do a test one real quick.
Just so you know, I'll do it.
No, I'm terrible.
You can get in the picture.
No, I'll do
You're
it.
a black man too.
No,
We a black brother.
We need you to be in it.
XYZ too.
He'll catch it later on work.
Yeah.
Once it's on the picture,
He about taller than me.
Yeah, do a couple practice shots.
Big boy. He done took over everything. Kneel down, big fella.
That's
Kneel
good.
down.
Okay.
Kneel down.
He's still young enough, he can hear.
I know.
Okay, I'm gonna take a few. Keep smiling. Keep smiling. Got it.
Don't blink.
I was blinking, wasn't I?
Thank you, man.
Thank you.
That was good. Good job. My sister's boyfriend is very proud of me. He's a photographer, and I get to take over take that picture. And I like things. I'm a pro. Every time it's